Myoho Renge Kyo. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi friends, how are you? I hope you're in good health and circumstance. Non-Origination, emptiness, the void. Yeah, we come across these terms and others that can create, well, a lot of confusion or misinterpretations, send us down weird rabbit holes. So what are we talking about? And more to the point, those terms have evolved and changed over the centuries, yeah? So today, for instance, we look at the universe far differently than they did 200 years ago, 500 years ago, let alone almost 3,000 years ago. So we're going to talk a little bit about those terms. Non-origination, probably one of the ones, or emptiness, you probably run into more often in your studies. Void and self-no self, or self-not self, is more accurate. So let's talk about it from the standpoint of how do we practice Nichiren's doctrine of the Lotus Sutra Buddhism in this age of Mappo, right? This latter day. So this is the entry in Buddhism Reference. The following studies come from online research on this terminology. Modern Nichiren doctrine and Shakyamuni's Lotus Sutra are important modifications to this idea that non-origination was first held to demonstrate the lack of free will or agency in the karmic amalgam of which we are instantiated, right? The engine of life. Nichiren refers to this in his writings as an error and a limitation by early Hinayana or early teachings thinkers, and that karma is immutable or not influenced by our actions. In other words, the karma you're born with, all of the machinations of energy forming into form, you're locked in. Nothing you can do about it. This thinking led religions and philosophies in India to adopt the ideology of destiny, right? And karma as an immutable reality. As we read further in Nichiren's scholarship, it becomes very clear that the method of the Lotus Sutra to awaken our ninth consciousness of Buddha-ness provides us with direct access to the entire amalgam of our karmic experience and momentum and moment-to-moment instantiations. Due to this access, we can influence and fully engage with our karma maintained in our lower 8 consciousnesses, providing us with agency and free will to affect change and expression of potential. This is, this may sound a little bit like word salad, but it's very, very, very crucial to our modern practice of Lotus Sutra Buddhism. I mean, are we just in the habit of doing these little rituals to entertain ourselves? Or is there a point? Is there something of value to our lives? Is there an affect to these actions we're taking? Well, in Lotus Sutra Buddhism, in Nichiren scholarship, in the entire lineage of Buddhist teaching, this is the point, right? Shakyamuni arrived after years and years of all types of mind and body attempts to reach some truth that wasn't just about, aha, this is the truth, but a functional truth that provided some enrichment, some goal, some attainable change for our experience of life. And he attained it. Well, was that his destiny? Or was it the ability to affect all living beings through self-realization? We hear that term all the time, self-realization. What is self-realization? What is self-manifestation? I've had endless questions about that. Because our idea as samsaric-minded people is that, well, we know the self because every single moment of every single day, we are identifying everything in our experience to form this idea of a permanent self. But that's exactly the problem. Our samsaric mind wants to permanentize everything. This is why we have these delusions of eternal and eternity and soul and blah, 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 blah. It's all invented. The truth, the actual fact of the matter is that we're all constantly instantiating. There's nothing static in the cosmos. It may appear that way because things are constantly reestablishing themselves from potential, but they're never exactly the same, right? Because it's a process that's constantly churning away. In order to grapple with that truth, we invented this thing called time. But that's an invention. That's not an indelible, you can't go to the store and buy time. You start thinking about that and you think, oh yeah, time is fleeting. Yeah, it's always going away, but it's also constantly renewing, just like the cells in our bodies, right? Ooh, just saw a big old bug. Sorry, distraction. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about non-origination, emptiness, void, self, not self. Is this battle between the samsaric perception that we then mistake for experience and the truth of what's happening. It's really not that hard if you think back to your childhood, if you can remember. I don't have a lot of memories of childhood, but I do remember those mental shifts, even into my teenage years, of rediscovering something. And boy, it was really easy when we were young, wasn't it? To be confronted with new information and go, oh, and just accept it like we always knew that. But we let go of a lot of fantasies and crazy thinking immediately upon seizing new, clear evidence. And this is what chanting is for. When we chant, we're opening that clear view of moment-to-moment reality. That's why as soon as you do that, all of that samsaric mess, it just gets out of it. It has no sustenance. It can't survive. It's not even a house of cards because the cards aren't real. It just disappears. Unless you race back to it as soon as you walk away from Butsudan, right? And you know this. You know this. We do the same thing as adults. We chant. Our life feels better. We experience more truth. Things seem to change around us. The only change is that we see clearly and all the bull crap is out of the way. But boy, it floods back in. We're so accustomed to it, right? And if you're looking for that stuff to come back, it's going to come back that much faster. Stay single-minded on Buddha-ness. From this study, it can be understood that the long-standing thinking of non-origination is an incomplete understanding of manifestations of energy from formations due to differentiation. Another way of understanding identification, right? How can you not identify when you differentiate? When you differentiate, you are in the act of identifying what? Discriminations, differences. Energies forming into endless variations from potentials create an environment of dependent origination. Remember the Nidana? See, Shakyamuni was teaching this from the very get-go. That perpetuate karma, the actions of formations to express energies into form, and the momentum of life. Non-origination leads one to the inevitable conclusion that all experience is a dream and non-substantial or void, right? This is the delusional idea of the cosmos. Whereas to understand that form is a result of energies in a dance of amalgams and instantiations provides a hugely fertile environment for the physical universe while also providing the duality that is the delusion of possession and ownership by samsaric thoughts, in opposition to the observation of all manifestations as temporary and impermanent expressions, like the sparks from a sparkler stick or bubbles in a soda water. In other words, empty. From this, we can also see that void and empty are not the same thing. Void is a vacuum of nothingness, whereas emptiness is the lack of substantiality or form. It's a big difference. Once again, cultural and traditional biases muddy the proper transmission of the teachings of Shakyamuni. In the BDK translation of the Lotus Sutra, words and terms like Bhagavat, Arhat, and non-origination serve only to confuse and do not belong in the Mahayana discourse, as they represent the earlier incomplete thoughts of Hinduism, Hinayana, and Theravada et al. For our purposes, the idea of non-origination can be seen as a thought investigation into the nature of illusory attachments. But this is only half the equation, though there is value to a deeper dive into the mind's mechanisms of attachment and so on. It must be pointed out that this early teaching was very much based on materialism. On actual thingness. A small but critical additional analysis from the point of view that all material is firstly formed of energy in the formation of quarks, protons, electrons, and so on, to consider the realms of formation without the presence of humans or sentience at all. With this in mind, sorry about the pun, we add the dimension of processes acting upon one another ad hoc and without intent, but amalgamating into tendencies and both creating and responding to conditions and still again more tendencies. This primordial soup is often described in the formations of this very cosmos we live in. Is this not the very essence of dependent origination? Where one action begets another and another in rapid succession that evoke the term Big Bang, or the Big Bang, also rapid inflation or inflationary period. I mean, physicists, scientists, philosophers, they all have different words they can try to describe this with. But it's just formations. Energy into formations becoming form. Oh, you can say, well, there's a big plasma before there's anything even resembling an atom. Well, what's the plasma? It's formations. It's so obvious. So anyway, this could be and is in this vast collection of videos and podcasts a subject that often comes up and that's often discussed. I've talked about it many, many times in many, many ways. And once again, for Buddhism Reference, I just wanted to put enough of a taste of the thinking in there to get you on the road to your own insights, right? And this may end up being your whole study of Buddhism, because it's fascinating. It's the root of all of Buddhist thinking, really. So I had to cut it short at some point. I mean, I've said what I need to say for this book, but you can go on studying more and more about that. And you will, because if you study any Buddhism, you're going to run into this, yeah? Anyway, this is about cause and effect, isn't it? How do we take actions, cause, to effect? What do we effect? If you believe in destiny, then whatever we do has no effect. So why practice? Because we can observe with actual experience the effect, the affects of our practice. All right. Thanks for listening. Please take care of your health. Your support is critical, so I deeply appreciate, even if all you can do is like and subscribe. It's a Bodhisattva act because it helps get this resource to more people's minds. But buy an ebook, buy a print book, buy a mandala, make a donation on Patreon or through PayPal. You guys, that's immense. That's what keeps me able to provide and grow this resource. I don't make any money off of YouTube. In fact, you've probably noticed I don't monetize any videos anymore. It's pathetic, and now there's so much advertising that it gets in the way of these discussions. So screw it. I demonetized everything, relying solely on you and your support. So thank you so much for that. Thank you even more for your practice. That's what's meaningful, right? That's what all of this resource is about, to keep you confident, find resolve, right? So keep up, keep your practice strong, savor it, and I'll see you in the next one, all right?